Hi, I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Yasmin.
Hi, I'm Maya.
And today we're talking about back to school dread.
Am I? I don't know weirdo.
What are some of the reasons that you might be worried about going back to school?
When I was in school, I wasn't particularly popular. So for me, it was the knowing that I would have to see all of the cool kids again, or more they would see me and laugh. So that feeling of not having the relief of knowing that you're kind of safe for a while and then having to go back and experience all of that again, that was what I didn't look forward to. And also just general, I mean, obviously school is hard.
I didn't necessarily get bullied, but I didn't have many friends. So just feeling a bit lonely. Like once you've done a really difficult class, you just sort of want to go have fun with your friends. When you don't have any, that's not, you can't do that.
It can be even more scary if you're moving school, say if you're moved house, or if you're going from primary school to secondary school.
It is extremely intimidating to walk into a new class full of people that you don't know, especially when those people have already had time to bond.
And what did you do when you were moving schools to sort of make friends and sort of...
Honestly, if you are just like open and positive, people generally are attracted towards you anyway. That can be difficult to kind of force that when you're not really feeling like you want to be like this great, fun, happy person. But just kind of putting in that little bit of effort to make people aware that you are open to speaking to them, I think can make quite a lot of difference in the long run.
I think the jump from primary school to secondary school for me, that is an opportunity I could have taken to make lots of friends. So I kind of made it more difficult for myself when in reality, like a few months after I finished school and like reconnected with people online, well, they all thought I was pretty cool and they like wanted to be friends with me at the time. And that was quite frustrating to look back on, knowing that I could have had a much different experience if I'd just been a bit friendlier and like not shut myself off.
What other things can you do if you're worried about making friends when going back to school?
Something I did at school, which you do have to be very careful about and talk with your parents about and stuff, but I met a lot of my friends online, which I think is a lot more prevalent now. Obviously you can keep those friends online, or if it's, you know, safe to, when you've Skyped with them and your parents are coming with you, then you can meet up with them as well, which is something that I did. But that really helped me, because even though I didn't necessarily have many friends at school, like you said earlier, it made me realise there was a life outside of school.
It can be difficult to kind of connect with people, but there are people that you will get on with.
So what if you're worried about going back to school because of bullying? What can you do?
When I was in school, I was actually kind of friends with a group of people who weren't actually very nice to me. And it took me a very long time to realise that what was happening wasn't actually just kind of friendly joking around. The thing that completely turned it around was telling my parents. They were just amazing in kind of making me realise that it wasn't okay what was happening and teaching me how to kind of stand up for myself. And within a couple of months, I had found different friends and moved away from those original kind of toxic people. And also teachers as well. They have tons of experience with that kind of situation.
Like I carry that in all aspects of my life, like the whole a problem shared is a problem halved thing. But I just think even if they can't help immediately, just getting that support and that feeling like someone's there to listen can help a lot. Myself and a lot of people often see bullying in a certain way and they see it as physical and quite obvious, whereas especially now there's a lot of cyberbullying going on. And I think just in general, if someone's making you feel uncomfortable at school, which is somewhere where you have to go every day, then that is bullying. And also an experience I had was that when that kind of bullying kept happening, I did try and stand up for myself before, but it kept being dismissed as a joke. Just because someone says that something's a joke doesn't mean that it's okay. If it is happening over and over and over again, even after you've asked them to stop and they keep dismissing it, it's still bullying and it's still abusive.
You mentioned earlier about cyberbullying. What steps can you take online if it is happening?
It is a lot easier to send someone a mean message than to say it to their face. But when it's online, you can save it and it's there and people can read it, and that actually can make it a little bit easier to handle the bullying because you've got like hard evidence. Obviously on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and things like that, you can block people. If it's consistent, you can report their account and get your friends to report their account, because often if a few people do it, they can get suspended.
So you may be worried about going back to school because of a certain class, or you might not understand things. What can you do in these sort of situations?
I think going to teachers and going to your parents. Again, it can feel like a really weird, scary thing. I think because you're making yourself seem a little bit vulnerable, and that is always something that can be a little bit frightening. but they want to help you, especially your teachers. They don't want you to not do well.
I found teachers actually get quite excited when you ask them for help because they like that you seem interested and that you seem passionate enough to actually want to learn rather than just being there because you have to be there.
The thing that I struggled with was that I was studying things I just did not care about. And I was so uninterested in what we were looking at that I was bored and therefore I wasn't trying. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially at GCSE, because you've got English and maths and science and all of those subjects when you might not really be interested in those things. But for me, it was just really important to remember and keep reminding myself that that is almost just a stepping stone to get to the interesting subjects. It's not forever. Like GCSEs is 2 years, which can seem like a really long time, but it flies by. And then college is 2 or 3 years, and that flies by. And before you know it, you're kind of where you want to be and actually excited about learning the things that you care about.
So when you're getting back towards the end of the summer holidays and you get that feeling in your stomach and you think, oh no, I've got to go back, how can you deal with that emotion, sort of that dread that you're feeling?
If you break down why you feel like that, what you can do to change or help it, and just think it's not the end of the world and it's not actually as bad as I'm making it seem in my head.
Actually writing things out is a really good way of dealing with anxiety or feelings of nervousness when you're not actually exactly sure what's causing those problems. Being able to see them visually is a lot easier to understand them than when they're all just floating around in your head. And then you can kind of talk through that with family and with friends and with teachers. And it just means that you can kind of organise how you're feeling a little bit better.
So what are your top tips for going back to school?
I would say that just looking forward to the future and looking forward to things that you are going to be able to do, knowing that you're going to be speaking to new people and sharing new experiences, and also just kind of keeping on top of social life and school life. So not drowning yourself in work, but also never ever looking at a textbook.
I'd say being friendly and open, focusing not just on the subjects that you're worried about, but the subjects you enjoy, and just really working hard on them, whatever they may be. And just enjoying yourself. Like, I think there are so many different aspects to school that you might get yourself down about some of them, but if you just enjoy the things you do like, then it will go by.
And if you are worried about any issues, you can always talk to Childline. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.